VHS pirate ship. Freddy Krueger. Yes, the monstrous antagonist of the Nightmare on Elm Street film series became a huge part of the horror landscape and was a tremendous pop culture icon. This character was extremely marketable in a number of ways, and since he was a child-murdering psychopath, they thought it would be a good idea to make toys out of him. Wait, what? Yes, as odd as that sounds, there was actually quite a number of toys based on Freddy Krueger, which I always thought was extremely weird because these movies are not made for kids at all. And I know that horror has always sort of been marketed towards kids, but there is a pretty big difference between having toys based on Dracula and toys based on A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm not being a prude here, it's just that the whole premise of those films was based on the story of Freddy Krueger, and Freddy Krueger was a child-murdering serial killer. Which, by the way, the original screenplay of the first film was to have Freddy Krueger as not only a child killer, but a child molester. And everyone just thought that was a little too much. And they were right, that would have been just a little too much. Certainly would not have made Freddy Krueger very marketable, least of all to make toys out of him. So anyway, things being as they are, there were a number of toys based on Freddy Krueger. And we start with Matchbox. Yes, that Matchbox, the #1 purveyor of little die-cast cars and trucks and those motorcycles that were never quite to scale with your other Matchbox cars. Yeah, what gives there? I always wondered why they even bothered making motorcycles. I mean, they weren't the same scale, even though they were clearly trying to be. And look, it's just a giant motorcycle. Well, anyways, Matchbox wouldn't just do die-cast cars and trucks and horribly scaled motorcycles. No, they would throw their hat in the ring of other sorts of toys, including Freddy Krueger. Yes, in 1989, Matchbox thought it was a good idea to pretty much commit career suicide and released the Talking Freddy Doll. And yes, basically everyone in the world had a problem with this. Parents, church groups, everyone just did not like the fact that there was a toy based on a child-murdering psychopath. Yeah, of all the things, who would have thought? Now, despite all of this hubbub, the doll did sell rather well. However, the aftermath would see Matchbox canceling another toy line that included Freddy Krueger. Well, in a way, because it really wasn't Freddy Krueger. The point of the toy line was this guy dressing up as Freddy Krueger, including other movie monsters. You know what? Let me start at the beginning. Yes, I'm talking about the ill-fated Matchbox toy line of Max FX. The gimmick of this toy line was that you could dress this guy up as different movie monsters because it was all about movie special effects, hence the name. And one of the monsters you could dress this guy up as was Freddy Krueger. And this particular Freddy Krueger Max FX toy would be the only one Matchbox would ever release. And it is all because of the Talking Freddy Doll. It stirred up such a controversy that Matchbox did not want any part of Freddy Krueger anymore, which meant shit-canning this really cool toy line. Which is a damn shame because this was an incredible idea. What a neat and original toy line. And as you can see from the back of the package, they did have a whole first wave of these things ready to be released. It just never happened. And this wave would have included an alien from, well, Alien. Yeah, it would have been really cool. It's just a shame. And it's weird that Matchbox would cancel an entire toy line just based on one character. Yeah, what gives here? They had already released the Freddy Krueger one. Why would you cancel the entire thing? I mean, couldn't they have just stopped making the Freddy Krueger one and just finished the toy line? Whatever. I guess the association was just too great and they decided to blow it up. So Matchbox would give us 2 Freddy Krueger-based toys that the entire world had a problem with, but there were other toys based on Freddy Krueger that caused no controversy whatsoever. And maybe that was because they were just really lame. Let's face it, a Freddy Krueger squishy figure wasn't going to get as much press as a talking Freddy Krueger doll. If you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, LJN released a Freddy Krueger Squish'em figure. Whatever that is. I mean, it's just a little figure you could squish and, you know, you squish them. So there's that, and LJN would release other weird Freddy Krueger toys, like a figure that you couldn't squish. And they also released Freddy Krueger squirt balls. Yeah, squirt balls, that was a pretty big thing back then. Well, they called them spitballs, but they were squirt balls. Scary 18-foot squirts! And there was a 2-pack. It included Freddy and someone they just describe as Victim. So based on the backstory, we can safely assume that's one of the kids he killed. And by the way, LJN's Spitball line was a line of toys that in no doubt was meant to compete with Madballs. And a little side note here, some of the packaging on these Spitballs has the LJN logo on them, and some of them has the Enter Entertech logo on them. And if you remember, Entertech was a company that made water guns, specifically mechanized water guns, and they were a conglomerate of LJN. And Entertech/LJN would also release spitballs for Jason and Victim. And of course, LJN is famously responsible for the 8-bit Nintendo games of A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. LJN just loved marketing inappropriate things to children. And that's the weird part. Matchbox releases Freddy Krueger toys and the world stops. LJN does it and nobody gives a shit. Huh, go figure. Anyways, LJN/Entertech would also release the Freddy Fright Squirter, which was pretty much a hand puppet without being a hand puppet. You just squirt water out of his mouth and I don't know, we had some pretty weird toys back then. For some reason, squirting heads was a really big thing. Freddy certainly had his claws in many types of toys, including yo-yos. Yes, the toy company SpectraStar released a Freddy Krueger yo-yo. Now, if you remember, and you probably don't, because I sure don't, SpectraStar was a yo-yo powerhouse, mainly when it came to having yo-yos of licensed characters. They had all sorts of them. They had Batman ones, Nintendo ones, Ninja Turtle ones, WWF ones, Jurassic Park ones, Gumby ones, Ghostbusters ones, and even Pee Wee Herman ones. And they also had non-licensed yo-yos, like this one that looks like a hamburger. That'll be quite enough about yo-yos for now. Anyways, Freddy would also have some candy based on him, which is, you know, exactly what you want a child-murdering psychopath to have. You know, that's neither here nor there, I guess. Marketing is what it is, and yes, Freddy was used to sell some candy. Well, bubblegum to be exact, but I don't really think that matters, does it? And I don't know, these were just really weird to sell to kids. Home Sweet Homicide? Why would you think that's appropriate to sell to kids? I mean, wow.